Hey friends, happy Wednesday. You know what that means? It's Ask a Flower Farmer. And I'm happy to be back here with you today. As you can see, I'm kind of standing in front of one of our sets here for our live shopping show on Friday because it's just kind of dewy outside. It's misty, it's been raining on and off, and I thought, what the heck, I'll just come with you here this morning. So friends, we have so much going on this farm. We are busting at the seams with new transplants, warm season tender annuals. Seed starting is like overloading. Bobo and I came up with strategy this morning of we can't even start our zinnias yet because there are so many other seedlings in front of it, and oh my goodness. And then I am kind of just becoming a crazy person doing all this filming for our new club community, and anyway, I absolutely just loving being a flower farmer, y'all, for reals. So if you're new here and you don't know how this works, for about the next 30 minutes or so till about 1 o'clock, you can post your questions about anything to do with flower farming, cool flowers, seed starting, business, what you got, down in the bubble with the question mark at the bottom of your screen. That way I won't miss your question by having to scroll through everybody's name. So we are on the verge of cool flowers starting to pop. Yesterday I spent the day netting some flower beds. I always miss some of my cool flowers that should be netted because they get ahead of me. I don't think they're really tall enough out there yet. Then you go out there and it's like, oh my gosh, these are, our bachelor buttons are 24 inches, or taller. And agrostemma and our saponaria. I cut my first snaps yesterday. We're harvesting Sorrenthe. So things are just busting open here. And you know that I grow everything out in the field. I don't have any hoop or greenhouses. So any questions you've got, and I don't know if you know that my new book is out, the Cut Flower Handbook, and would love to sign a copy for you and friends. I'm telling you, it is taking all the questions out of growing cut flowers. If you really just sit down and read, so you need to read the first 2 chapters or the first 2 sections about what is a cut flower garden and how do you just make it be the biggest and best you can, and then how to do it, from seed starting and setting it up and everything. And then 2/3 of the book is featuring individual flowers, and we're giving it all. We're spilling the beans on my favorite varieties, seed starting tips, harvesting tips, conditioning tips, everything. And so it's going to become a really great reference tool. And I'm just super excited about that. And we sold out of the first printing. The publisher sold out of the first printing within 2 days of it going on sale. And we're back in stock and we have them. And when you purchase your book from us, we give you a free resource. So check that out. You can actually comment book here and that'll automatically DM you a link directly to it. Stand by, y'all. Stay, buddy. Sorry, y'all, I had to capture my dog. He just came. Sorry, y'all. I had to get the dog to not leave the building. So I see that we have questions, so I'm just going to jump right in and see what we've got here. Hi, Lisa. This will be my first time harvesting lilac stems. Any tips on stem length and how many stems are in a bunch? So I wished I could grow lilacs, but here in the South, we just don't grow those. So I'm afraid I am not your girl for that. I don't know if you were here last week. Dave Dowling was the host. He would have been your man. I really have no idea about anything on lilacs, where to make the cuts, and that kind of stuff. So if you're a member of the ASCFG, I would go over there and search that private Facebook group. That would be a good place to get solid information, but I am so sorry I cannot answer that question. Please suggest a supplier for mountain mint and any growing and peak harvest tips. Okay, so mountain mint, I do not know what the botanical name of that is. I cannot quite remember. There's a couple of different mountain mints out there, or that's a common name, and that's what's wrong with common names. They can be different ones in different areas. Mountain mint, you have to buy plants. In my experience, I guess you can start somewhere. It has to start from seed. Typically, you buy plants. Oftentimes, that is a really easy plant to buy locally from either Master Gardener or native plant sales. This is the time of the year to hook up and find those. You don't need many plants because mountain mint, it'll take it about 2 years, but it is just as aggressive and invasive as regular mint. So I would go online and Google mountain mint and get the correct botanical name, and then just look for native plant sales and Master Gardener sales near you. That is like the number one native plant that if you want to just grow one native plant, that's the one you should grow. But it's also amazing cut flower filler. We actually, Jenny Love and I discussed this years ago, and I tried it because she had a bunch and I had a big patch. So if you have a big old patch of mountain mint, we would like mow half of it down, but while it's like 2/3 grown, so it'll regrow and come after, because it all blooms at once, right? And that way you can stagger. So you can actually pinch it at different stages. And so we definitely like to harvest it before the little blooms open, but you have to let it get mature enough that it doesn't wilt. So you're going to have to really experiment with that. Excellent filler for bouquets. If you're doing wedding and event work, people love that stuff. So that would be my thing, is you just need to be sure you're getting the right one. You know, not that there's anything wrong with the other one, but I cannot remember. I'm so sorry. I wished I knew that botanical name. Where is your farm located? I am in southeastern Virginia in Newport News. And why that would maybe be relative, I can't even speak, y'all, right now, is you know that we just sent out our Save the Date. We're doing our once a year, we open our farm to the public, and that's the end of June, the last Saturday in June. I believe that's the 29th. You can learn more about that through our website. And if you want to be in the know about that kind of stuff, you need to be on our email list. We'll also be announcing when my in-person workshop that's in May, which has only got 35 seats open, when that's going to be going on sale. So getting on my email list, which is on every page on our website down at the bottom, you can sign up. And so that's the way to find that out. But we're never open. Oh, there you go. Jesse says it's open farm June 29th. And y'all, that is like, people come from all over the country. And Jesse's coming from Kansas. And I hope Ann's coming. Our virtual long distance workers. Our warehouse is open. The farm is open, rain or shine. It is tons of fun. I mean, it's the most exhausting day. Dave Dowling will be here. Ellen will be here. Ellen Frost. It's just going to be a tons of fun day. And because we live right below Williamsburg, where Water Country, Busch Gardens, Colonial Williamsburg, Yorktown, we are quite a, Bobo's looked it up. How do you pronounce it, Bobo?
I don't know.
I'm going to give you the spelling. Somebody spell this in the comments as I'm saying it, okay? I'm going to give you the correct name for, are we sure that is the right one, Bobo?
That's native one.
I don't know about native. That doesn't look like ours.
Oh, I didn't look. I just did native plants. Here, give it back on me. I'll find it.
We want the little flat flower, not an elongated. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, no, that's not right.
So anyway, y'all put that on your calendar there. All right. Tulips all are getting pulled when you cut them, but what about daffodils and narcissus? Tulips all get pulled when you cut them. You mean the bulbs? Well, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, but I will tell you that the huge difference between daffodils and narcissus and tulips is the bulb is one and done. You don't ever save tulip bulbs. They're trash after you've harvested them. You can't rely on them. It'll be years before it gives you another flower normally, and it's just not worth it to save that, even if it were to survive. Well, narcissuses and daffodils perennialize and do in fact bloom over and over. You need to leave the foliage. I think it's 16 weeks is the magic number, because the foliage dying is what's feeding the bulb to make next year's bloom. So leave daffodils and narcissus where you planted them. They're a permanent planting, like a perennial. But tulips are a one and done. What is the secret to germinating snapdragons? Well, snapdragons are a cool season, hardy annual. They have to be surface sown. All right, here comes Bobo again. That's it, I think.
Yeah, that's it.
So where does it say the name? All right, so I'm gonna, is that it? That wasn't.
Yeah, I clicked on the picture.
We're gonna post, we'll do a post with a picture on Instagram today. So y'all can check that out about mountain mint. So snapdragons are a cool season hardy annual, and they need to be surface sown. They need oxygen and light to germinate well, but it's all about temperatures. And I don't know where you are, but for most of us, it's way too late for snapdragons to be germinating. It's already heating up here, even in our grow room. So a 65 to 70 degree air temperature, surface sown. They do appreciate a cool seedling heat mat, and we cool it by putting a cookie cooling rack we put our heat mat, seedling heat mat, a cookie cooling rack with the tray on the rack to just cool that heat mat down a little bit, because they do need consistent warmth but not heat. But they will not germinate if they're not happy with the air temperature. In your book, you state that stock can take 20 degrees Fahrenheit but cannot take a frost. Does that mean it can be hardened off under a cover porch or unheated greenhouse just so the frost doesn't hit it? So it'll survive 20 degrees. So I'd have to read in the book exactly what exactly you're relating to. Stock will definitely survive below frost. But we definitely cover it with a row cover. When we first planted out, we planted in very early spring, which is 6 to 8 weeks before our last frost date. And we do that to help concentrate the sunshine, to help it get established and lay down roots even faster. But stock will take cold weather, but it just won't go through the winter necessarily. And it's a quick bloomer, y'all. If we fall planted it, it'll actually survive. Y'all, sorry. It'll actually survive winter temperatures here, but it would bloom in the middle of winter. So it is fairly cold tolerant. Hope that answers your question. How do you know when you should bump up peppers, tomatoes into 2-inch blocks? What a great question. So first off, you don't have to, but we like to do that so we can grow them a little bit bigger, so it's a more sturdy plant when it goes out into the garden. So for us, that's usually about 10 to 14 days. You don't want just tons of dangling roots, and in fact, if that happens, you can just trim those little dangling roots off and drop it into the 2-inch blocker. But for us, we tend to get at about 10 to 14 days when we have about a 2-inch transplant, and then we can bump them up to the 2-inch block. Zone 9B, no frost this year and last year. Winter temps 40 degrees. Will cool flowers still establish? So that's a really great question, Garden Journey. I was just answering this somewhere for somebody. I can't even remember where. But it was the very same. It was a frequently asked questions on something that we're working on. If you don't actually get a frost where you are, deep south, and you want to plant cool flowers don't require cold weather to bloom. They're not like peonies. Most of the cool flowers that we grow do not require vernalization. There's a couple of Sweet Williams, but 99% of the rest do not. So my recommendation to people in your conditions is to try to get cool flowers into the ground a few weeks before the beginning of your coolest time of the year. That means that the soil is the coolest that it's going to be, right? And that's what we're really looking for cool season hardy annuals, is to plant them into cool soil so that they can just really grow roots and establish. So they will still establish. And I actually think I said this in the book, I think it's harder to figure out in your conditions when to plant cool flowers than for the rest of us that have really cold winters. You know, I mean, it's just harder. You have more options, but you have to figure out how to make the most of your options. And I would say that your best opportunity is to have transplants or direct seeding ready to go in the ground, you know, that 6 weeks before your coolest weather. Oh, Dave got it, Bobo. Dave is on here. He just wrote in here the mountain mint that we want and where you can buy it. Go, Dave, go. Great. That is your hook. You have got to find that window, and I think you can grow most everything. All right, I'm having a hard time getting my feverfew seeds to sprout. Any suggestions to get it going? Thank you. All right, Sarah, so I don't know if you're growing. We grow about 6 different varieties, and I will say some are more challenging than others. I will tell you the easiest feverfew in my experience to germinate. What's it called, Bobo? Is it White Wonder?
Yeah.
White Wonder. It used to be Balls Ultra. It used to be Tetra White. They all, I mean, if it's evolved through the years, that is the strongest growing feverfew for you, easiest to germinate. The Vegmo series, which is one of my favorites, that's got 3 or 4 different colors. They can be a little bit more slow and challenging. Anything slow gets challenging because you can easily overwater it. You know, you get frustrated and forget about it. So the Vegmo series, but we still have fairly good luck. I'll tell you the one I love that I struggle with always is Virgo. I love that little white button. And that one can be challenging. So I would say, I can't remember off the top of my head whether it gets covered or not covered with soil and all that stuff. You need to reread your instructions. Cool Flowers has it. The new book has it. Your seed packet should have it if you got it from us. And check that out. All right. Let's see. Any tips for celosia seeds? I'm having low germ rates. I have grow lights and heat mats. All right. So just to review very briefly, celosia is a warm season tender annual, right? And so that means it's going to like it really warm. A seedling heat mat, which it sounds like you have one, is definitely needed. We sow our seeds and they go straight onto a seedling heat mat. And then they stay on that heat mat until we see approximately 50% of the seeds show signs of life. That's just cracking. You don't even got to wait for a sprout to crack open, right? And then they're surface sown. We lay that wide weave burlap just across the top of our soil blocks just to help to retain that moisture. And once you find your rhythm, so if they haven't sprouted, they haven't even gone to the grow light yet, right? You don't have them on the heat mat and on a grow light at the same time. So surface sown, warm temperature, seedling heat mat for sure. Be sure that, you're retaining moisture on the surface, and we do that with wide weave burlap, which just allows, sorry y'all, I hit the right button, good circulation. My celosia plumes aren't starting great. They'll get a root started, but nothing else. I'd be interested to know which variety you're actually starting. Some of the hybrids just have a little bit different germination journey than others. I wonder, are you seeding, celosia, as I just said, is surface sown. It needs air, it needs oxygen and light to sprout really well, but it has to be firmly seeded in the soil. That's why we use a toothpick. There is none of this sprinkling seeds, right? You're seeding a seed in each block, and we do it so very quickly and have great success doing that. So I would just start over again. I would start another round of seeds and see what happens. Y'all, so often, and it happens to us, we've had a crummy start this year with our cosmos. Every year it happens this way. I don't even know why we start them early. Just sporadic. We start like 14 different cosmos. And when you have multiple failures with different seeds, it is definitely an environmental or operator error. So whose fault is it? It's ours. And we'll restart in 3 weeks on the next round, and they'll do great. Don't ask me. But I don't spend a lot of time we just move on. You know, we have so many stuff coming along, we don't have time to stop and fret, right? I have the Celosia Plume on Surface Firmly Sunday Mix. So Sunday can come and go. I'm just saying, I grow a lot of Sunday. I grow all the Celosias, all the different plumes, from Pampas Plume to Sunday in Texas and Sylphid. And sometimes, I mean, I can sit and speculate over what could be the cause of that, whether it's, you know, coating or viable seed or what have you. But if it's a mix, that means it's multicolored, which means if you're not having good germination, I would just look at your air temperature, you know, seedling heat mat. Is it too hot or not hot enough, warm enough? You know, I would just really reevaluate. That happens to me. Sometimes I'm like, why did I not even realize that? Sometimes we use seedling heat mats for years, and sometimes they get hot spots where it'll be totally cool here and burning up hot over here because the element is wearing out or going bad. So I would investigate all of those things. Dave, last week, I wonder if Dave's still on here. Last week you mentioned using Miracle Grow to give some slow growers a boost dosage. So Dave will chime in the comments if he is still here. But I totally can see doing that too. Once your transplants are in the ground, how often do you water? I'm sure it depends on the variety. I'm in zone 7. That alarm. So it really depends on your soil level. I mean, it's not really high tech. If you, like this time of the year, we're wet all the time. I mean, it rains sporadically. And because it's cool temperatures, the ground just really doesn't dry out. That's the problem with this time of year, right? You never can prepare soil because it's always wet. So we plant, everybody gets watered at planting, and then we monitor the soil. And how do we do that? Literally, y'all, take a trowel, stick it in the ground, pull it back, and check the soil about 4 inches down. If you're talking about seeds or new transplants, you can just check the surface. If it's dry, I mean, if you're sowing seeds this time of the year, you definitely need to water those daily. But you just need to check the moisture level of your soil, and that is definitely varies from area to area. Does your book cater much to the hottest areas like zone 9 and 10? So it caters to the whole world, meaning it's based on temperatures, and it gives a recommendation, like if mainly it's about winter temperatures. But there's warm season tender annuals in there, and I kind of talk about what I mentioned earlier for somebody that was in the deep south. It's like you have the most planting options, but it is the most difficult to find the window, because what you're trying to do is to get cool season hardy annuals into the ground when the soil is the coolest, with the longest, coolest run in front of them, so they can get well established. I mean, that's the whole cool flower concept, right? That's why we plant in fall if you can, which you would be all fall. If you're in zone 9 and 10 and you have any cool weather, I don't know about 10, if you have any cool weather, it means getting your stuff in the ground before that window so it can get established. Well-established plants can just take heat and humidity so much better. And there may be some that'll do great, some varieties of plants. You have to experiment with your own situation, your own conditions, your skill, your soil, you know, all of that plays a part. But yes, the book has a whole warm season section of flowers, which all would grow great for you, right? And it has some tips on, if you are in the deep south, on figuring out when to get your stuff in the ground. Do zinnias require pinching, or may I do a deep cut at first harvest? Yes. I don't know that any branching flower requires pinching. There are just benefits to pinching. You know, our pinching rule is 50-50. Well, if I'm going to pinch a crop by choice, not out of desperation because I can't plant them and they're growing out of the tray, out of planned pinching, we would do 50% of the crop. That way you get two benefits. The pinched ones will branch earlier, the unpinched ones will bloom earlier. And for those, when you cut that first bloom on the non-pinched, that is your pinch out in the garden. Your first cut is the pinch, right? So that's kind of my feeling about that. We've never pinched zinnias because we've always grown so darn many of them. And it's just more than we could do. You know what I mean? We just didn't do it. And they're such strong branchers. We just let it go. So that's really a personal choice. When you were starting 1,000 sunnies a week, how many snaps were you starting each spring? I don't start any snaps in the spring. Ours are all fall planted. And I always planted way too many. I have too many snaps right now out in the garden. I always have too many snapdragons. I'm not sure why that is. So I would say back then our beds were 120 feet long and we were starting 1,280 sunflowers a week for 26 weeks. And so for snapdragon volume, I bet I had 120-foot beds, because you have to remember, we grew by solid colors. I grew multiple different varieties, and would do like 25 feet of each color of a variety. Like there'd be a whole bed of chantillies broken out into the colors that I would grow. So I don't know if that would help you at all, but I always just seem to grow too many snapdragons. Mindy, where can I buy your cut flower book? Well, Mindy, you can actually just comment book right here in this comment. Just start a comment and type book, and then it will automatically DM you the link directly to the book. Or you can find it at thegardenersworkshop.com. It's at the top of every page. And I'd love to sign a book and send you also the bonus PDF of the flowers that didn't make the book. All right, let's see. New to ranunculus, they have just sprouted to 4 inches. When do you start fertilizing, and how do you make liquid fertilizer? I am saddened to say, because I think you may have been the one that asked me about the lilac. I do not grow ranunculus, so I am so sorry that I cannot advise you. And if Dave is still on here, he may chime in. Curly Girl Florals. I grow dahlias in my backyard garden and have an infestation of leaf hoppers last year. Have you ever had to deal with these pesky bugs? We do have leaf hoppers here in the South. That's why I don't grow asters. Asters are a gorgeous flower, but leaf hoppers, their biggest issue in my experience is they spread disease everywhere, right? I've never treated for them. We just tended to not grow the things that they're really affected. But we see leaf hoppers occasionally. So we don't use any pesticides, organic or otherwise. I would probably reach out to either your extension agent or Google that, leaf hoppers on dahlias, and see, organic resolution or something like that, and see what comes up. But that is definitely an issue. Do you pinch your delphiniums? We grew delphiniums as cool season hardy annuals. Again, they're perennials in the north half of the country, but down here in the south, it's our August that kills delphiniums because of the heat. So we planted them every fall, and no, we did not pinch them. They send up central stems from the base of their plant, so I don't believe that pinching would help at all. So one last question. Do you use Bio 360 on both your warm season and cool season beds? What a good question. So for anybody that's not familiar, Bio 360 is a biodegradable film that looks just like plastic and works like plastic and gives you all the benefits of plastic for weed suppression and heating or cooling the soil, depending on which color you put up or which side of the film you put up. And yes, the only time I don't use Bio 360 is when I direct seed. Those are into open beds. And we do have a small area of our farm that is no-till, but in fact, we have started using Bio 360 even on those beds. We found a way to secure it on the sides, just because we prefer planting into that film over mulch or deep mulch that is just so difficult on young transplants. The mulch really has to be fairly deep to truly block weed germination from actually happening. And so we use it. I use the light side, whether it's gray or white, up when we're planting summer stuff to keep the surface cooler. And for cool season hardy annuals in the fall and very early spring. We use the black side up when we're making beds, so it helps to warm the soil some. So friends, thanks so much for joining me here today. And Dave, thank you for chiming in when he was here. We love having different people take over Ask a Flower Farmer so y'all can get a taste. You know, Dave's course, Flower Farming School on Lives, Bulbs, Perennials, Woodies, and more. Dave Dowling is the walking encyclopedia, y'all, about if you're ready to expand your farm and add more crops. His course is ready and available. And I'm thinking if you comment bulbs here, I think you might actually get a link to it. But if not, you can find it at thegardenersworkshop.com. So friends, I hope you'll join me Friday for our live shopping show inside our app. If you don't have our phone app, y'all think QVC with me and my sis talking about our seeds, tools, and supplies. It is a ton of fun. And so you can join us Fridays, 12 o'clock Eastern time. Inside the app, I give away a great gift every week. Sometimes I give away a $25 store credit. Sometimes it's my favorite tool. This week next week it'll be really fun. We have birthday weekends next week, so who knows what we're going to be giving up. My sister and I have a birthday. Her birthday's the day after my birthday. And if you want to know about that, you have to join us for the show on Friday because we'll be having tons of fun. So next week will be our birthday week, but this week I'm sure we're going to prime y'all for that. All right, friends, if you need the app, just comment app here and that'll DM you the link to the app. If you need the book, comment book and it will DM that. I'm just loving all this AI stuff, y'all. So friends, thanks for joining me here today. Until we meet on Friday, see you then. Ciao.